So we were going to do, or we are doing, a top 10 best and worst acquisitions throughout the off season. Um,
But we're gonna take a small detour real quick right before we
well,
get to
we're,
that.
we're actually going to start with the number one worst move of the off season because the LA Valiant just announced that they're that
Blowing it
well
up,
that they're
blowing it
blown
up for
up,
fun.
which was rumored. It was rumored before. And Diamond, I'll let you give your statement on that first.
So I will. We've made it no secret that I'm a Gladiators fan,
Mm-hmm.
and but what I have not said is that I always respected the Valiant up to this point. I was always like a minor Valiant fan because I liked a lot of the players on there. I liked in seeing the roster do well. Was a bit iffy going into the 2020 season, but it still had players I like. I love KSP. I've been following KSP before he joined Overwatch League. I was high on him beforehand. I knew he would be a fucking nutter in the league. McGravy, I was high on, and I know McGravy got released earlier, and he even made a tweet out where he apparently typed in Discord, and Taylor like snipped it and tweeted and said he finally snapped because he did. He said he kept waking up nights and wondering if he could have done anything better to be better and stuff and potentially have his job still. And then said it finally he can finally go to peace and rest it now because he knows that his job would have been fucking gone anyways.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have mattered. And that's a shame. That's a damn shame. Like no team should do this. Like we already thought the Vancouver situation was bad. Hell, we've already thought the Dallas problem with the K was bad, and then we had two examples that were like, "Oh, this it can't be worse than this," and somehow it is. I don't like what Vancouver did with the Koreans, but in a lot of ways, in my opinion, they got punished for it because they had to go fully cheap Western that was guaranteed to not do well in the
Yes.
league.
And I want to point
Versus,
out the difference in the situation here too, for the players specifically. At least when Vancouver did it, they still had to pay out those contracts for the full year, did they not?
I believe so. They did. Yes.
And now with the rule change that came into effect this past offseason, Valiant are only obligated to pay out the 30 days, 1 month's worth of each player's contract. So there's no guarantee now that these players are even going to be able to make ends meet and keep a roof over their head in what is obviously a very tricky COVID situation.
On top of it also being a very finicky job environment with esports, where your paycheck can sometimes be far away.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people have their issues with franchise formats. It's a big reason why I love them is because it guarantees players paychecks. It guarantees them a good contract and a way to actually fucking live their life in playing this game.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just annoying. It's so upsetting to see this that there are so many of these players that are just going that aren't going to be able to find new homes, and it sucks. And I really hope that some teams. Uh, it would be nice if we had more teams in the league at this point. Is the only thing I can say because then we would maybe have a better chance of seeing someone have homes. I
Yeah.
will say we have almost fully confirmed that KSP will be going to Atlanta. Dogman has said that Atlanta has signed someone new. Halo then reported that it was KSP. Dogman doubled down and said that it was indeed KSP and has been saying it as if they have already signed him.
Mm-hmm.
We're just waiting for the full-on announcement, and I'm pretty sure after Valiant announcing today that we will see KSP announced to Atlanta very soon.
Yeah.
Uh, and then the other one is Shax is rumored to go to London.
Yeah. That's the other
With
rumor.
those two are the two we knew would probably get new homes almost instantly, and it's not shocking to see that they did. They are really good players. Lastro, I believe, could see somewhere, and we talked about agilities off recording because he has a big fan base, and he could easily go to somewhere like Toronto where they could use a Western Flex DPS. So,
Vancouver. Toronto's
my bad, Matt. Yeah,
got
Vancouver,
nice now.
Vancouver.
Yeah.
But otherwise, a lot of these players, they're not going to see homes, and to someone like Adam, who I feel the most bad for, who
Yeah.
came out of an unknown region, a region that is, again, I will say, probably second worst contenders region, barely beating out South America at this point, and only one team that was honestly looking in that way has now been told, "Come to the league. We're gonna pay you now. Fuck off."
Yeah,
So, I just, it's sad. It's just sad.
it is, and I want to point out, like with the rule, it's like you can't really be mad at the league. You can really only hold the Valiant accountable for this because it's just a complete and utter abuse of the rule that was put in place, right? And yeah, I hope the league holds them accountable. I hope they get fined. I hope like they need to be held accountable some way. And and I know for a fact that there will be no shortage of people tweeting at the Valiant and letting them know how upset they are. So and I will be one of them. So I
I
want this on the record right now. Fuck you, LA Valiant. You fucked over your players. Uh, I don't think you deserve to be in this league. End
I'm not
statement.
gonna go that far. I'm not. I I'm one of the only people who understands business will be business. I get that. I try to look at things from a business perspective and say, all right, why did you need to do this? What happened? This is one that's really hard. I want you to know. It's extremely hard to see why you would do this. And Immortals, I've heard, I would assume it's because you just don't have a lot of money and you're wanting to put money into other efforts like Valorant and stuff. And sure, but I think it's not the greatest to still be in that situation that you're just going to sell your Overwatch team to China just because you think it's going to survive there. And sure, Immortals, you still get to hold on to management of the team, but that's not the important part here. The important part is you should have faith and try to help make the game grow and the league grow as a whole instead of just sailing ship the moment it seems like you think it's doomed to fail.
I understand business will be business, but in a situation like this, you have a moral obligation to do what's best for your players.
No, you don't.
It's a
At all.
moral obligation. It's not a legal obligation, but it is a moral obligation. You need to try like they and I highly doubt that they did, but they should have at least tried to have found other homes for some of these players rather than just saying, "Okay, bye, see you later."
And they might have. We don't know that. That's the one unfortunate thing why I don't want to call that is we don't know. They
Yeah.
might have tried to find other places, but the clear the indication that has been given off is that the talks of selling were after they had signed their new players and most of the teams were done looking for players. So they might have, and that might be why Atlanta and London have potentially their new pieces because they were approached by Valiant being like, hey, do you want any of our players? And they're like, sure, we'll take fucking KSP and Shax. The problem was if they had done this at the beginning of the season, no one would be bitching because then the players would have equal and almost opportune times to get picked up. But now it sucks because the talks came so late that everyone's done picking. Everyone has who they want, or at least feels good about who they have, and is now they're just waiting for the season to start versus trying to get that last piece that they need left.
Yeah. I like how they blame it on visa issues too in the statement.
They blame it on that and COVID overall, and I don't like that because if it'd be one if that was true. You wouldn't be selling though. You wouldn't be holding on to management and selling just the team aspect to it if that was fully the case.
Yeah. Correct. All right. So with that, um, we're gonna continue on with our with
Actual
the
video idea.
yeah. So I mean that was number one on my worst moves list. To any player or fan of the players that are on the worst acquisitions list, do not take it personally, and it's not necessarily that I think that the
We do not
that
hate the
that
players. We do not hate them
yeah
actually. It doesn't necessarily mean we think that the players to what team they are on is a problem. in my case at least, I can say a lot of the ones on my list are because I do not see what you add to this team. Whether that's because the team has another person at your role, or because the team's not going to be that good overall, so you being there isn't really going to help them, or other cases. This is not a personal attack on any of the players. This is simply our analysis of what we think the game this season's going to look like, and where these players fit in, and how we think they affect their position in the upcoming season standings.
Hmm. The only one on this list that needs to take it personally is LA Valiant. Okay, so you want to go first? We'll go one and one. We'll go one and one. So like you go next, and then
which one are we going first?
We're going worst because we already started on Valiant.
I'd rather start at 10, personally.
Okay, well I'm not having mine in any particular order either.
All right, so I went ahead and put mine in this particular order because as mine go up in both lists, it's value based. Typically, it's like how much do I think this actively hurts or does not help the team, or actively helps or benefits the team. Kellex to London is my first one. I have never been a fan of Kellex. I think he is not that great of a main support, and so I'm not really high on him seeing him here again. The thing is, though, he's also solid. London themselves are not going to be that great in general, more than likely, and I think he's harmless on London, so he's number 10. He came around with the whole British Hurricane roster, so it's not like a team dropped another main support to go get Kellex like Toronto did beforehand. So I can't really be mad at this move, but it's number 10.
Yep, Kellex was actually on my list too. I'll just add that onto yours. There was a lot of talks around Toronto this year about players not being motivated, and one of the things that their chief strategy officer said in an interview with CA Overwatch was that he had a talk with players saying, you need to take this seriously, and if you're not, then I will go out and hire another player half as good as you and drop you from the team. And Kellex was actually the first one to leave Toronto, so I don't know how motivated of a player Kellex is or anything like that, but yeah, I'm not. But given the issues that were in Toronto this year, and given that he was dropped and replaced as well, leads me to not be so high on him being on the Spitfire.
All right, I'm guessing that means it pings back to me.
Yeah, we can ping that back to you.
So number 9, I have KSF to Houston. Now this might be a bit confusing for a few people, but I do feel like I have a good explanation on why. So before Jake got announced back, this would not have made the list. But because Jake is now back, I don't really see what KSF does here. Hydration, I think, is better than KSF. I think Jake's better than KSF. And I said you would pick up KSF not for his talent, but for his personality. But now you kind of have Jake for that. So I don't really know what he fits. I still think Kyle would just bring a positive attitude to this team, so I don't hate him there. This is a big one that I'm like, I don't hate this move. I just think it's not a good move overall if we're talking power-wise, that you could technically use that slot for somewhere else. But, Kyle, I love you. You're a great man. So just keep rocking.
Yeah, and I'll actually join you on the Outlaws train and actually say Juby. I'm not too hyped on. I don't. He's out of the collegiate scene, and I want him to do well. I do, and obviously everyone is quite happy about a team picking up from the college scene, but the college scene I just don't think is anywhere near as competitive as contenders. So Juby is going to be a question mark for me on Houston.
All right.
Any thoughts on that,
8,
or do you want to?
I mean, my biggest thing is they don't have another main support. They
Yeah,
could go get Rain now
they could.
if they wanted to. But yeah, like I agree with you that I don't think contenders is nearly. I mean, college is nearly as good as contenders, but
Hmm.
I want it not to be that way. I want college. I don't care if it's worse. I want college to be the dominant one because I want to let these players have the ability to also get a good education and not be fucked for life if they don't make it to esports. So
Yes, I agree with you there.
I'm not gonna hate on the pick too much because it means teams are starting to look and teams are going to give it a shot.
Yeah,
My number 8 is Jihoon the Charge. I
I
say this because I
I
don't
actually had that as well. Funnily
um
enough.
a big reason why, and it, probably for you as well, is the fact that I think Rio is a really good main tank,
Yeah,
and
I wouldn't
Jihoon's
say.
kind of wrecking ball one trick overall,
Hmm.
roughly. We have seen him on the Reinhardt and stuff, but I definitely would not favor him in a Ryan v1 versus most people, and it really does feel like that Charge just picked him up for Wrecking Ball,
Hmm.
and I don't like the concept of just fielding a specialist because it makes you so predictable and inflexible. And
Hmm.
even if a main tank is slightly worse on a character but can play multiple things, I think is better because it lets you say, fuck it, let's not play meta and let's go play what we're good at and then roll people if you are that good at it. So
Yeah.
that's my opinion. What do you have thoughts wise?
I'm not as high on Rio as you are. I do think he's a very solid main tank. I don't. I think he would be an upgrade on a lot of the lower tier teams. Very very solid. But yeah, again, Jihoon. You already have Rio. There's no like he's not an upgrade over him. And I think Rio's ball is actually going to be quite good, if not even better, this upcoming season because I'm sure he'll be grinding it now. Um, Although, if I were to put an upside on this move, is I would say that having that second main tank player behind Rio might push him a little bit harder to hit that top tier level main tank.
You might be right. Um, Number 7, I said repelled to Dallas. This one, this one is slightly recency biased. I will admit that.
I I basically have all the same shit as you at this point.
I'm not surprised. A lot of these are very. I think as we get closer, higher up on the list, we'll start to change. But I think a lot of these lower ones make sense because they are very big question mark moves. Look, Fielders. We saw how good Fielder was on ping, and I just want to see him again. Maybe he's not as good as Repel, but I don't know that until I watch Fielder play over Repel and see how he does.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest problem I have there is just because the it's not even that I hate Repel and I think Repel is bad. I think Repel is actually a solid flex support,
Hmm.
but I don't think he's as good as Fielder. And because he's being run over Fielder, I have a problem with the pickup now.
Yeah. It might have to do with like a play style different and what fits best with the team. Because maybe they just have a different play style. But but yeah, I had Repel to Dallas as well. The only reason I think that they picked him up would be to have a complementing or a differing play style to that of Fielders. So, but yeah, that's
All
it.
right,
Next one.
number 6 for me
Mm-hmm.
is Nisha the Chengdu.
Okay, I did not have that. Why are you not big on Misha?
Because I have not because the Veltal I think is at least a really solid Mercy
Mm-hmm.
and an okay Lucio,
Mm-hmm.
and he's now on two way, and yet you still played him the last time I saw Chengdu. They still played him over Nisa, and
Mm-hmm.
I have not heard good things about Nisa to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's kind of a question mark to have him as your signed starting like main support when Yveltal was at least good enough and serviceable enough. And I would rather you try to go for someone who is better. And I heard from Sideshow, I think it was, I could be wrong on the person, but I think it was Sideshow talking about how he would have much rather seen them pick up um, the main support that was playing with Gaga and Faraway 1987
Mm-hmm.
on that Chinese team on Team CC.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't remember his name, but he would have rather them seen them pick him up. And I'm more inclined to agree. So yeah, I think that's a big question mark to me is why you would go with him and not the other one that has pure previous synergy and is seen to look really good.
Mm-hmm. My next one will be Molly to Shanghai. I don't see him getting playtime over Izayaki. He's the one Chinese player on the roster, so that might have been why they picked him up. But I think Izayaki's just better overall. Izayaki's going to have more team synergy because he's been with Shanghai for a lot longer. So yeah.
I'm gonna say on that that's not a problem to me because I think you are right. Izyaki's overall really good, but I personally think Izyaki's Ana is his worst flex support,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you might get Molly for that. And I think I actually rate Molly really high as a flex support. I think he's kind of underrated. Um, so I think he will see some playtime, but I think it might be on a good amount of times on the Ana and not on something like Zenyatta.
Yep.
Number 5 for me. I am 37 to Boston.
I had that one too.
Yep, I figured you would. This one brings even more into question after soon, with the soon pickup. I'm assuming he was picked up before they even thought they were going to get soon.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't have a great time last time in the league. I'm not as down on him as I think you are, but I just don't think he adds anything to this team. I don't think there is. I don't think he'll get a lot of starting time, so I think he might just be kind of a wasted roster slot.
Yeah, the thing with I'm 37 is he was always quite streaky. Um, he either popped off or he was like less than invisible. So for that reason, I'm iffy on him. I don't if he pops off, great. But like I said, he was very inconsistent when he was on Toronto. Uh, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Really high highs, really low lows, or lower lows than his highs.
All right, here comes my first one. I think that will be really, really surprising to you is FRD to Vancouver.
Yeah, that's
number 4 for me.
I didn't have that. Why are you not that high on FRD?
I think FRD is a fine off tank. I think he is okay, but I don't expect this Vancouver roster to be very good.
Yeah,
and I kind of wish they would have attempted to go for someone better, possibly.
yeah.
It sounds mean. It makes it sound like I don't think. I do think there are people better than FRD that are probably. I'd have to look at the full free agent list, but I'm pretty sure there's a better off thing that's a free agent or in contenders.
I personally think that they could have kept KSA.
KSA was kind of only really good on the Sigma. His Diva was not that great.
Mm-hmm.
At least we know FRD can play everything to a solid level. Not his high wouldn't be as high on KSA when it comes to Sigma, but I think his Diva, Zarya, and Roadhog probably would be better because we've at least seen him on those characters and play decent, not amazing, but decent.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those. I kind of wish Vancouver's roster to me kind of screams we didn't try, and that's what's insulting to me.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm bullying FRD a little bit here, and I apologize, my dude. I love you. You got picked because I think Linkster is a solid pickup overall. I think Teru is. I will get to Teru on my best. He does make it, but Teru fits a niche that Vancouver did not have. Fire, I think, is a good main support. And we made the rule of I can't pick people who were re-signed. If I could have picked someone who was re-signed, you would not be one being getting bullied here for Vancouver. I would have picked Shredlock or someone because I don't think they're good players.
I like
they're
Shredlock.
Not good enough.
But maybe that's just because he's Canadian.
No, it's just I really wish they would have gotten a better main tank and a better flex support as well to help you out there, FRD. So power to you for trying to help this team. So good luck to you, buddy.
Yeah. I'll join you on the off tank train and say I am not a big fan of Michelle to Defiant.
Okay, my Defiant one's next, so we'll touch on that in a second, but
So the reason I'm not a big fan of Michelle to Defiant is he was on Soul this past year and got benched for Marvel on the Sigma. And
Okay,
just on the off tank in general. And I think, or not I think, my read on the situation after watching some of the videos that Defiant put out interviewing KDG, um, every coach, or like after watching lots of like NHL, being Canadian and seeing the Maple Leafs go through a bajillion different coaches, you know every coach has players that they love who can do no wrong and players that they hate who can do nothing right despite them actually being one of the better players on the team. And I think Michelle fits this with KDG, where KDG just likes Michelle and likes having him on the team, despite him maybe not being the greatest. So for that reason, I'm a little worried about Michelle on the Defiant. Plus, a lot of his flexibility and playtime came in Goats, when Sombra was when the Diva player would have to flex to Sombra. So that was also where he saw. So like his upside comes with his flexibility, but in roll lock, having him be able to flex to the Sombra is not going to be utilized like at all.
all right. So for me, number 3 is my Toronto pick, Ansun J.
Yeah, I thought you might
Kind of in
have him there.
same ballpark as FRD. Of it feels like you didn't try. There were probably better main supports you could have gone for. I could easily probably go look and say there's a fucking main support out there that's not signed right now that you could really go for. Hell, Toronto, go pick up Rain. I think Rain would probably be better. And that's mostly from no one really knows who the fuck Ansun J is.
Yep, he saw almost no playtime on EM, at least from like going back through like the past season. The other main support got playtime over him. And the other thing that has me worried is during Gauntlet, so many players that had already been picked up by Overwatch League teams, so many, especially the rookies, went back and continued to play in Gauntlet. Ansun J did not, and that's also very concerning. Considering again this past season, there were motivation issues on the Defiant. I like it went like Aztac went back and played for was it WGS?
Yes, I believe so.
Right? So that shows after already getting your contract and then still going back to playing contenders and gauntlet shows me that you're a motivated player. And Ansun J being one of the few that did not has me worried for that reason. But I'll let you continue on with your.
I mean, no,
thing.
I think you touched on a good aspect to it. I'm just saying that it's again kind of that you didn't try mentality to really go for someone better and out there. And I think you're right that there's a bit of a motivation question mark.
Mm-hmm. My next one on the main support role is actually closer to Justice. I think there were. He's not a bad player by any means, but I think there were better options out there, and the Justice backline do be looking kind of weak with Bebe and closer.
Okay, I'm a whole no comment for now.
You're gonna hold no comment on that one. All right. One more.
No, 2 more.
Well, my one was the Valiant roster decision, so
Yeah,
that
so
we already
for
touched
me,
on.
me, I'm gonna say Soman Suda Spark. It's number 2.
Okay.
I love you, buddy. What the fuck do you do on this roster? You serve zero goddamn purpose. They have 4 DPS. You feel no real good niche that they need filled. He's just a big question mark. He's just a big question mark to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how to feel about it. Like I don't think Spark's gonna be that good coming this year, even though they have a stack. They should have what should be considered a stacked roster, and I'm just like, eh. Why do you need Selmansu?
Mm-hmm.
Where does he fit into your team that you say that's why we need Selmansu? That's why we get him.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a big question mark to me.
Yeah.
That's number 2 for me.
So my last one here, since I'm counting the Valiant roster as the number 1 worst decision, was Yakpung to Nixel, which I don't actually think I don't want to say he'll be the worst player on the team. I actually think like he's one of like what 2 or 3 players. No, like he has Overwatch League experience, but I've seen him play for Defiant. His shield management was not that good on Reinhardt. Maybe he's gotten better, but he's really a kind of feast or famine kind of player, where he has like these crazy pop off moments, but then disappears. So for that reason, I'm worried about Yakpung on Nixel.
I'm not. I don't know how to feel about the Knicks roster, to be fully honest. I just that's why I didn't put any of them on my list. I just couldn't really figure out how I wanted to feel about that team.
Yeah.
But here's why I said no comment. For my number one, and you'll see I did this also on my best list. We'll get to that in a 2nd.
Mhm.
I have 2 people, Closer and Bebe, both to Justice. I doubled down on your Justice thing because this is the one I would say I fucking hate this move.
Yeah, for me, I was trying to stick with one, so I was just picked one of the random between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am not high on Closer or Bebe. I think they're both mediocre, and they're the biggest reason why I think Justice won't be good this year. Like, won't be as good as people want them to be or expect them to be. What?
Aside from Tuba, that is. But we left. But
I
we left out.
I think Tuba on the characters he can play has shown really good skill.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's why I'm not too. I think Tuba and Jerry are in the same part for me because I think Jerry's also you're going to see is going to be pretty mediocre of a hit scan player. And the only good parts to this Justice roster, in my opinion, are Decay,
and Fury.
Mag, and Fury.
Yeah.
And so this backline, it just screams mediocre to bad, and I don't like it. So
yeah,
again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm attacking Bebe or Closer. I love good luck to both of them this coming year. They're still in the league, so they're still somewhat skilled.
Yep.
But
everyone on this list is obviously far better than we'll ever be at the game.
Yeah. So I just
but compared to other players in the league, we don't think they match up.
I think this is one of the worst backlines in the entire league this coming season. So that's my number one worst.
All right, so now we'll hop on to best.
Top 10 best.
Top 10 best. I'm going to go. I'll go first this time. Okay. I'll say my number 10 will be Neptuno to Paris. I'm glad to see Neptuna back in the league. I think he's good. He's probably going to be one of the best players on that roster.
I do love Neptuno. I think he will be really good. He did not make it on my list, nor did any of Paris's people make it on my list.
Yeah.
For me, number 10 is Glister to Shock. Now, I really wanted to put Nero with him as well, and I also really wanted to put FD God because I think all 3 are really good pieces to the Shock.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see them play. I think Glister helps come in and fill an issue that Shock had since On's retired.
Yeah.
Reason he's number 10? Because it's the Shock. They would have been fine without him anyways. So he doesn't add a whole lot, but I'm still excited to see Glister play with a really good team. And I'm excited to be a Glister fan. I just want to be a Glister fan because I kind of liked him on London. He showed that he was really skilled, and I want to see what he can do on a better team.
Yeah. My next one is Mondu to Charge. I don't think he got enough playtime on Nixel. But I think he does have that slightly more aggressive playstyle, and I'm excited to see what he brings. I also think he'll be an upgrade over Chara.
Yep. I've been kind of been taking sideshow's role of being the fucking charge simp for a bit, and so I am also excited for this move, but I did not put it on my list either because I don't think it will be as big as a lot of the others. But it is a very good pick to have as a really good move. Let's also say, there are a shit ton of good moves, people. Like, it's a personal top 10. Our opinion. If you have a different opinion of top 10, let us know. We would love to hear them because there are so many good pickups this year. So many. And we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
I cheated again on my number 9. I apologize. I said I was going to do it in my top as well. Shu, Muse, and Moth, all to the Glads. Okay. I think they upgrade this Glad squad so much. They will help this Glad squad be really scary and really solid. At the same time, I was also pretty confident DP getting anyone that was somewhat good slash competent at these roles, and they're are they good, really good upgrades compared to what we have last year? Yes. I feel like we were going to get upgrades no matter what,
Rip
personally.
Big Goose.
So
I'll miss you, buddy.
I don't want to sit there and necessarily say I like this pickup, but I also don't think these three specifically like they will help the Glads be better, but I think anyone in this spot would have made the Glads better, personally.
I'm
So that's why
gonna
they're all the way at number 9.
I'm gonna hold comment for later because
Right.
I have someone on that list a little bit higher up. But I'll say
Okay.
my number 8 is Gaga to Hunters.
Hmm.
Because from what we saw during the Asian tournament months ago, I thought Gaga looked I thought he looked pretty good. He's more flexible than Ameng, and his ball is just as good. And obviously, his other main tanks, such as Winston, Reinhardt, and Orisa, should all be better than Ameng's as well. Maybe not the Orisa, but it's hard to really differentiate yourself as a player on Orisa. It's Orisa. But yeah, I like Gaga. More flexible and better, and just as good, if not better, on the other characters compared to Ameng, because Ameng's more of a ball one trick.
Very good pick there. Sorry about that. I think there is a lot of excitement to be had with Gaga, but my number 8, I said Animo de Soul.
Yes, I remember you talking about this.
Yeah, Animo, I think, helps give a bit more consistency to the Soul roster, and Toby would have. Toby was solid, but I think Animo's just that much better, and along with 2U, but 2U's technically not a new pickup. He's just upgraded up to starting main or whatever, the starting roster. I still really like that these pieces in particular, and especially because Animo looked really good in the most recent Nexus tournament, which will be happening again this weekend. Make sure you watch it. But yeah, Animo de Soul. It's a big one for me, number 8.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with you. I've got nothing to argue with you on that point. Number 7 for me is Slime to Florida, and it was a bit of a toss-up between him and OG. But I think Slime's been around a little bit longer. I think Slime might bring a little bit more leadership, and I think Slime's he's a pretty solid main support, especially on the Lucio, and I'm a sucker for Lucio players.
So I think Slime is a bit inflexible. Mm-hmm. My one biggest issue with him, but I was very close to putting him or OG on my list as well. I think my reasoning not is because I was telling myself again, no matter who was in that position, kind of like with the Glads, but even more, I was like, Florida will still be more solid because they have really good pieces. And so I think there's a lot of excitement to be had with this Florida roster. I'm excited for this Florida roster, but I do think Slime is a bit inflexible and will potentially cause the team to have issues because of it.
Yeah. Your next
my
pick?
Number 7. Mm-hmm. Number 7, Mono Diffusion. This
really?
might be a bit of a spicy take, but I think Mono Diffusion is actually a really good thing. I think he is. I personally probably would say he's still better than Sato. I think Sato is still a bit overrated, a slight bit. He is good, but I think a lot of what made him look at nearly as good as he did this year was the simple fact that he had Funny Astro and Alarm in his back line. So I think that does mean a lot more. But I could be wrong. I just think now that you give him Mono, who's probably, in my opinion, a better main tank, you have still Poca, who's played really well, Funny Astro and Alarm, who are really, really good, Carpe, EQO, and Shockwave. I must say it, their DPS line's the biggest question mark in my opinion. But and it's not because of Shockwave. I think their DPS line is solid. I'm still really confused on the EQO pickup. Not because I don't like EQO. I actually do like EQO, and I think he is a solid player. But you did not take him to Korea to play, so he couldn't have even played in the finals. You didn't re-sign him at the beginning of last year and had in a trailer video that he happened to be coming back and was one of the first people talking about looking at new opportunities. Yet you still re-sign him.
Yeah.
What the fuck, Philadelphia?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like him or not? Are you in a love me, hate me relationship or something? So I know we're not talking about that stuff, but yeah, I like Mono Diffusion. I think he will make the team better.
Where I stand on the Mono thing is I think his playstyle will clash too much, or maybe not too much, but I think it will. You'll see it clash with the rest of the Philly squad. Philly's always been a scrappy, aggressive team, and Mono's never really played that way since LW Blue was a thing because that was the old Nixel squad, and that team revolved around pocketing Jonak. And that meant he had to play safe and bait, which I don't think he'll. Yeah, I just don't think his playstyle will mesh with Philly. I think it'll clash a little bit. Next, number 6.
Janak wasn't on LW Blue.
Was he not? Oh no, he wasn't. My bad.
No,
My
Janak
apologies.
came ranked.
You're right. My apologies. But no, he has generally always been more of a passive main tank.
He has.
Anyway, number 6. Moving on. Jumping on to the Outlaws train. Crimzo to Outlaws. Best Western flex support in the league.
That's not hard.
No, I know, but he's still top tier, pretty consistent, and he's a Canadian, so I'm a sucker
And he's
for
still worse than every other Korean flex support.
Bebe. Rappel.
He's still worse than everyone but except Bebe in the fantasy. Look.
I think he's quite solid. I think this was actually a big pickup, and quite an upgrade for Outlaws this year. So I'm excited to see him on Outlaws. I think he'll be an upgrade.
I'm just glad he got a team. That's all I can say because I don't think he'll do anything for this team. I don't think Houston will be that great, and it's not because I think they have a bad squad. In any other year, I would have said that squad would be first place, but not this year because this year the teams are so fucking stacked. So that's why I'm not that impressed by this Crimson pickup because it's you needed a flex support and you got a good one, but he's still gonna be worse than most, and that's unfortunate to him. I'm sorry, Crimzo, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
If it was to Shock, I'd probably be more high on it because I think he could upgrade even more because Krusty's just a magical god. But now we're having to rely on Harsha and Junkbuck, who I do think are good coaches. But I don't know how much you can really help with this Houston roster that has a couple question marks. So good luck to you, Crimso. I hope you do well this year, and I'm glad you got a home. Mine, number 6, is soon to Boston. And this is the one that I start to say really starts to upgrade the team more. I was very close to putting Sam 1, but I think soon brings a lot of veteran presence. Has proven time and time again that he is a
top tier hit scan.
He is a top tier hit scan and is someone you should be excited for. So I am excited to see him on Boston, and I think he will do well this coming year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you there on soon. I think that is a solid pickup, but I did not have him on my list. Number 5 on my list is Sato to Toronto. And the reason I say Sato to Toronto is I actually think he's the biggest upgrade to this roster. This team has always struggled, or for the last 2 seasons that they've been around, they've always struggled trying to find a solid main tank, and I think Sato provides that. And Sato, I also think there are obviously better main tank players out there in the league, but I do think he is a top tier main tank, and I think I actually think he'll be the best player on this Toronto squad.
I have a Toronto pick later, so I'm not going to touch on too much of Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Sato will be that solid for the. I think he'll be good, but I don't know if he'll be the best person on this team.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely don't think he'll be the worst. By no means do I think he'll be the worst. So I think it is a very good pickup, just not the one I think is the biggest and best pickup Toronto made this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
For me, number 5, I'm excited for this one, is Teru to Vancouver. I think I said this a little bit earlier in the worst section. That yeah, I'm high on Teru simply because he fits a niche that Vancouver needed. um, I I'm glad to see Vancouver is not going to force Dalton onto something he can't play. That is so unbelievably nice to see, and I want to see what Teru can do. I don't think they'll do well, but I think he is a very valuable pickup for this Vancouver squad.
Yep. I do remember when they first picked him up, you were not high on that at all.
I was not high on I had a lot of question marks, and I still have those question marks. But when we're talking best pickups, my brain says who gives the most value to their team that was picked up, and I can't argue with the value he provides Vancouver simply because he fills a role they needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think he's gonna have problems with communication, and the team's gonna see issues, but I can only say what I think when it comes to having the aspect of at least he fills a niche.
Mm-hmm. My number 4 pick is Fury to Justice. Big pickup. Obviously, trying to sign Janu didn't go through, but I would argue Fury is probably the better off tank between the two of them. So, yeah, Fury being one of the best acquisitions of the offseason, and going to Justice.
I think you're underrating how big that pickup is at putting it at number 4. To be honest, I have a Justice pickup a little bit higher, so I'll touch that in a second. My number 4 was Pelican to Atlanta. I think this is massive for Atlanta.
I thought about putting him on, but I decided to pass on that.
Let me also say that Fracture would not let me put KSP to Atlanta, who would probably make the number 1 spot. But yeah, I'm excited for Pelican and KSP to pop off on Atlanta and be a really deadly DPS duo. Mm-hmm. And this also kind of fills a niche that Atlanta kind of had, because they kind of didn't really have a good projectile player, to be honest.
No.
And this lets Edison specialize a lot more, and I think this at least the DPS of Atlanta is going to be extremely scary. Their support line is going to be at least solid with Masa. I think Iris really needs to show up, or Iris needs to really show up this year to prove to people that he's good. And it's Hawk and Gator's redemption year.
Yeah. So part of the reason I had Fury lower is because I had some other ones ranked higher. My number 3 is Moth to Glads. 2-time Overwatch League champion. Very calm, level-headed. Best main support in the league. End statement.
I agree. I said it earlier. So, number 3. Here's my Toronto pick. Nice to Toronto.
Okay.
I'm big excited on Nice. I remember watching him a little bit in Contenders before I got heavy into watching Contenders. I think he has a really good flex DPS, and I think he'll be the best pickup Toronto made all season. Mm-hmm. I think he really does help this Toronto roster.
The reason I didn't have Nice on as my Toronto pick was a bit of recency biased. His past contenders performance or past contenders teams have not performed well, so that's why I didn't have him on there. But I agree with you on the fact that yes, that's probably not fully his fault. And
one of those seasons, Alarm still played on that squad, and are you going to sit there and say Alarm's bad?
No, at least not well, but not after this season anyway. And then the other, but I do think he has a lot of potential, and I do expect him to pop off, or not expect. I hope he pops off. I'm not going to place expectations on him just yet. Number 2 is top two. Number 2 for me is FD got to Shock.
Ooh.
More of the feed your brains out Lucio's that I love. He was
only really good.
Only really good, yes. FD got really popped off on Eternal this year, and him being on Shock, he's going to be coaching under Krusty, so I don't know. He might surpass. He might outperform Moth this year on Glads. So
Um, I think I mentioned earlier that I also wanted to kind of give it to FD God. I do think FD God's an insane Lucio player. I think he needs to work on his hero pool a bit more,
mhm.
but otherwise, I don't think he's even that much of a feed your brains out Lucio. I just think he is a solid Lucio player overall. He is more aggressive, but
Yeah,
he's not Li J Gong aggressive, and
yeah,
that would be the feed your brains out Lucio I would talk about.
mhm.
Um, and that's not necessarily to sit there and try to call out Li J Gong. I think Li J Gong is good, but he did feed a couple times. There were a few times he went too aggressive and it hurt his team, but there were also times he went aggressive and his team backed him up on it, and it was good for them. So
Yeah. Your number two.
my number two, it's my Justice pick. I said Mag to Justice.
You're going for the rookies.
I am. I wanted to get a few rookies in here. I'm very excited for them. I think Mag is just a fucking like light years improvement over Roar.
Yep.
It's massively big, and he is the top main tank coming out of contenders with Muse being right under him. So I think he's the biggest reason why Justice will be good this year, besides Decay. Like, obviously Decay will be good. We know that, but you only gave him half the roster to be good, or like two people to be good with him, and that's Mag and Fury. And I
Mhm.
think Mag's the bigger piece than Fury is. And that sounds crazy, but I am excited for Mag. And
Mhm.
so those three combined, I think, will make Justice see wins. And it's the other thing that I think will make Justice lose games.
Yeah. Um, my number one pick is Fearless to Dallas.
Wow, really?
Yeah, obviously, I think he's an upgrade over Gamsu. Uh, he was an integral part of Shanghai. I just think Dallas needs to implement him better. And what I mean by that is that when he was on Shanghai, their team was designed to play around his Winston, whereas I don't think this Dallas team or the coaching staff on Dallas are going to or have figured out how to, I guess, do the same thing. But I think Fearless is a good leader. I think he's a really good main tank player. I think he's really flexible, and I would argue he's the best main tank player in the league.
I think you are way overhyping him when you say he's the best main tank player in the league.
I'm going overall. I'm sure Super is better on the Reinhardt, but I would
What about
place
Smurf
Smurf's Reinhardt is not better than Smurf is good on Winston and Ball.
and
Uh,
Orisa?
okay, playing Orisa is not
But
hard.
it's still 3 out of 4 that I would say I take Smurf over Fearless on.
No, I would take Fearless's Winston. I would take
I
Fearless's
wouldn't.
Ball, and I would take Fearless's Reinhardt. I haven't seen
I
his
would.
Orisa, but I don't rate Orisa that highly.
What about Gesture?
Gesture, his Reinhardt is still shit.
What
Um,
about Marv 1?
Marvel has played nothing but Sigma for the last year.
I I still think you're way overrating Fearless. I don't even think he's the best pickup Dallas main.
I think he's the most consistent across all the main tanks, and that's why I'm rating him as the number one.
No, I think you're
I think there are other I
there.
think there are other players that are better on specific heroes. Again, example Super on Reinhardt, but immediately under him you're gonna have Fearless next, right? And then I don't know. I just think he
I don't
outperforms
even think
more.
Fearless Reinhardt's that good.
I don't. I
Fearless
I
seems
think he
like
outperforms most main tanks in the league across all all main tanks.
no. I think you're smoking the crack pipe, and that's why my number one is actually MCD to Spark.
Is he even gonna get playtime?
Yeah, he is.
Sorry, that was
He's the starting.
that was coldest that I was thinking
Yeah,
of. Yep,
Coldest also isn't a pickup,
that's because coldest has
bitch.
spent the last year on
Um,
the bench.
yeah.
I don't know why they
Um,
haven't decided to play him, but cool.
mm. So well, look, I don't think Spark will be good, and so it might seem like I'm also on some LSD drugs, saying MCD to Spark is the best pickup this season. But I think he's a really big upgrade over Bebe, and that was something I think the Spark really needed last year was a better flex support. So yeah, they got it. I think it will help the roster overall really be good. I just don't know if it'll be good enough. That's the problem. So
Yeah.
that's why again, I looked at this more in a bit of a value of how much did the team need them versus how well do I think it will actually affect the standings. Because I don't think it'll affect the standings that much, unfortunately. But yeah,
Yep. Anyway, thank you everyone to watching. Let us know who your top 10 best and or your favorite and the ones your worst. I don't know. What am I trying to say here? Let us know your top 10 best and worst pickups for this offseason in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a like. If you wanna get more videos like this, hit subscribe. And on that note, until the next Uwu, guys. Uwu.